Hello, everybody. Good Wednesday. It must be a Wednesday because we're chatting gin. We're talking gin. Happy Wednesday evening, everybody. Tonight we are chatting to. Now, his name is Dom, but I'll let you look at his name when we add him on camera in a moment. So when my watch is going crazy, that's because I'm very excited about the gin. That's why. So I'll let you look at his name in a moment. But we are streaming live on all of the Sip and Share platforms as usual. And tonight we're going to be meeting Dom from Hooting Distillery. So we're going to find out a little bit more about them, what they do, which I think we've got a good idea of here ahead of our tasting on Friday the 18th of March, which is a week on Friday. So let me get who I think is the main man himself. Let me see. Are
Hello.
you the main man? Are you the main man? Would you call yourself the main man?
I'm the distiller, I'm the MD, I'm the instigator of this mayhem. Yes.
Yes, that'll do then. So for those people like I was 1 minute ago, most people put their name and the business on the introductory, little orange box. Where are we? Here. But to you, sir, I can't do it the right way. Sir Alfred Titan Hodgins. Have I said that correctly?
That's correct. Sir Alfred Titan Hodgins.
Go on then. What's the deal there then? What's this name?
Sir Alfred Titan Hodgins existed in the 1800s, and he lived a coaching inn just outside York, 8 miles outside York, called Barnby Moor House. Well, at the time it was called the Wilmer Arms, so a very famous coaching inn. It's on several old paintings done by some great masters. We bought the house in 2017, and while refurbishing the house, we found a hidden floor safe in the scullery. And in that hidden floor safe, we found some secret messages from the previous occupier of the house.
Are you having me on?
Who was Sir Alfred Titan Hodgins. He was an owl, was Sir Alfred. And he was the head of a band of secret craft distillers. And obviously we'd kind of retired and refurbished this property, and I was looking for something to do. And within the floor safe was Sir Alfred's diary, and the diary was titled Tour de Yorkshire, and it was his journey around Yorkshire, finding botanicals so he could make a gin additional to the very famous Hooting Owl signature gin of 1860.
You had me then.
There is method in the madness.
I saw. Do you know what? I saw a photo of you earlier in a hat not too dissimilar to Sir Alfred's himself. So I looked at it and I looked at this gorgeous branding, which it is absolutely on point, by the way, and thought there's a story here. There's a story, and I absolutely love the fact that we're doing it. We're running with it. So how long have we been? What was the year you said when you started?
So we bought the house in 2017, and to be truthful with you, I'm a foodie anyway, but I was going to do something different, right. And it's only the political situation that we found ourselves in that meant that I had to do something based at home. I wasn't going to. I've built several businesses over my time, and this was. I just exited another one, so I kind of retired. So I retired on the 28th of February 2017. Okay. And by the 3rd of March, I was bouncing off the walls. So I said, I've got to do something else. So I just went out looking for a USP in food. And it turned out to be gin. I thought there was an opportunity. I thought there was a USP to produce something really good. And it just goes off my thoughts of what an artisan is. And I don't think there are a lot of artisans out there. So as many as we should have. There are a lot, but there's not as many as there could be.
And there's also not as many that maybe execute it with the if we can tell that story with an authentic vibe. You follow through, right? You've been doing this for a few years now. This is not a COVID project that started for you. This has been something that's been going for a while. So your brand and those stories are very well rooted in
Yeah, they
What
are,
you
and I mean the reason we wrote the story, and some of it is true. We did find a hidden floor safe. We did buy a 300-year-old coaching inn that we moved into. We did. There was no map of where the distillery was in the stables, but we did build a distillery in the old stables. As an enabling development, really, it was something to. We've refurbished the house. The house takes a lot of looking after. It's hundreds and hundreds of years old. So we needed a business, and I'm a mad foodie. I've got an engineered mind, and I just thought that I wanted to be an artisan again. And it's my idea of what an artisan is. I believe that an artisan is somebody that makes the best product that he can possibly make, and then he finds a market for it. And we're in a market where a lot of people are making product for a market. So our products are slightly different to most, in the fact that they're the best I can possibly do. I've not said let me let a bit of the methanol through to try and save myself a little bit of tax. I've not done any of that. It's about what's the best product I can produce, and that's what it's been about. And then it's been about a story. And the reason we wrote the story about Sir Alfred being the head of a band of secret craft distillers is because when I looked at the industry and I said, how do you grow? How do you grow this business? And the only way that they generally scale this business is they turn from artisans into something else, because they end up going into supermarkets and become a mass market bottling plant. And that's not artisan distilling in my opinion. So we said, right, Sir Alfred Titan Hodgins, the head of a band of secret craft distillers. We already have another brand coming along at the moment, Major Farquhar St. John Smythe, who's a tipsy toad.
Sorry, say it again, Dom. Major
Farquhar St. John Smythe.
Major, okay.
So that trades under Tipsy Toad Spirits, so it's already out there. We've then got the Curious Cat, again, which is already out there. And they're all animals. They're all a take on animals. And once we've got 10 distilleries done nationally, then we'll bring it all together as dinner. Here's this band of secret craft distillers. And they've all got an equal story that all matches. For an example, the Curious Cat comes from the Cheshire Cat, which comes from Alice in Wonderland. Alice in Wonderland, as we all know, was written by Lewis Carroll. And Lewis Carroll was also a keen amateur photographer. And if you look at Lewis Carroll's photographs, you will see one of the photographs is of a young girl hanging out of a bedroom window by a bedsheet. And that photograph was taken at the Manor House, Barnby Moor, where Barnby Moor House, the coaching inn. So Lewis Carroll's been here because he would have got off the coach here to get to the Manor House, which is next door. So everything's got to be linked. Everything's got to have a reason. And the stories are all linked.
Yeah. So I'm so curious now, Dom. What did you do before you did distilling? What's been the thread that's carried you through? Before we talk gin, Sip and Gin members always like to know more about, yes, the gin and the story, but the person that made it. So what is it that has been the thread throughout your career that's brought you to
I've had a bit of an odd life because I was obviously born nearly a century ago. And I grew up in care in Bradford. I then had a military career.
Right.
And when I left the military, I walked into my local job centre in York. So I left my last posting was York. I was an instructor at the training depot there. And I left in York. So I went into the job centre and I was looking for jobs. There are no sniper jobs in York. There are no weapons instructor jobs in York. There are no anti-tank section commanders jobs in York. So I thought, what am I going to do? So instantly, I went and worked the doors. But I decided that I needed to learn a trade. So while I was working the doors, I walked into a butcher's shop in York. And I said to the chap that owned it that I'd come for a job. He told me there were no jobs. So I said, I'll work for free for a year. So I worked for free for a year in a butcher's shop to learn a trade. At the end of that year, I bought the business. And then said to myself, how do you scale it? So we went from a retail butcher shop over a 10-year period to a multi-million-pound business that was supplying a turnkey operation into the residential care sector. Then I got into renewables as a direct result of that, and we invented a new kind of wind turbine. And I sold the intellectual property of that in 2017 and decided I want to be an artisan again. So that was it. That's the journey.
Do you know what? I can't wait for the tasting next week, because whilst drinking this, that is going to be, I'm going to dig even deeper into that. I'm going to form some Q&A based around.
well, the gins are all about the story, and you know, we actually make over 140 gins here.
Wow.
So there's obviously the two Hooting Owl ranges. So the Hooting Owl London Dry, which you have there, but then there's the V fruit gins. So Hooting Owl V, which are 6 fruit gins, but again they're full strength, 42%, made from a proper gin, and then we distill fruit flavors that we add to it. We do add some colour, but natural colours, and we add colour because a lady came to me once and said, "Can I have a pink gin?" And I said, "What flavour?" She said, "Pink." I realised pink was a colour, so we do colour some of the fruit gins. But being an artisan and the industry being what the industry is, then I thought I'd really try and help other places to develop their own products. An example being there's a Michelin star restaurant 10 miles from here called the Pipe and Glass. It's in a place called South Dalton, just outside Beverley. They invited us up, so they stock our gins, and they invited us up, and James, the patron chef there, wanted a gin of his own, and he had flavour ideas, etc., etc. And I says, "Well, no, that's not the way to write a recipe." And he says, "How do I write a recipe?" I says, "We find it writes itself." So the recipe should be about stories, so the history of his premises, and incidentally, it's a coaching in on the same line as this coaching in. So coaches that came here 200, 300 years ago also stopped at the Pipe and Glass. That was their next stop before Beverley.
Amazing.
So there's a link. So I had a look around, and I found this interesting plant that I'd never seen before, which was lovage, which is a bit of a spicy celery, I suppose. A couple of other little herbs, but then I walked into his greenhouse and I was hit by that viney smell of tomatoes.
Yeah.
Because interestingly, the most flavorful part of the tomato we throw away, and that's the vine.
Yeah.
So we've extracted the vine. So we make a vine tomato and garden lovage gin.
Wow.
It's like a Bloody Mary. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. I mean, it got a great taste award last year, and we can do anything, and it's about just taking people's stories. Have you heard of the Evil Eye Lounge in York?
No.
They've got 1,300 gins, so they're in the Guinness Book of Records for the most gins of any bar. So 1,300 different gins on stock. Within their stock, there's probably 40 gins that come from here. But we also make gins for them. And their head waiter was leaving the business 3 years ago. Stefano Lombardo, so Italian. And they came for a visit at the distillery, and the owner said, "Look, I'd love to do a gin for Stefano. He's been with us years and he's now leaving." I said, "What would you like?" And he said, "Pizza." And he kind of laughed. I said, "Why are you laughing?" You know, of course we can make a pizza gin. You know, it's just using the herbs and the spices and the tomato vine. So we produced a pizza gin. So it's called Evil Eye SL, which just stands for Silvano Lombardo. Again, it got a great taste award last year. So we can do weird and wonderful things, and it's about just thinking outside the box. You know, all our gin are London Dry, so everything comes through the still. We don't add flavors and things afterwards, and we can interpret just about any story and make about anything.
Oh my God, right. I'm so excited. I've got to just say, someone's just written, if the gins are only as half as good as the stories, yet half as good as the stories yet are still fabulous. So many things I'm going to talk to Donna about after this. Tell us what's in here then, because I haven't tried any. I think this is the first tasting.
So that box is the Tour de Yorkshire. So it contains our North, East, South, and West Yorkshire gins. Okay. Now, as we all know, that Yorkshire is made up of 3 ridings. So North, East, and West Riding. We then added South Yorkshire. South Yorkshire is generally below the M62, and anywhere below the M62, from my Yorkshire Regiment perspective, is France. But we've got to involve South Yorkshire in the journey. And it was all, so as we develop the gins, it's about the journey through the different parts of Yorkshire, but it's also a little bit about the East Riding and the West Riding regiments, and their story and their history. Example being, we use black cardamom in two of the gins, so the East Riding and the West Riding, and that's really as a nod to the East Riding and the West Riding regiments, who won 6 Victoria Crosses in June 1944. So we tell that story, and the 5 of the Victoria Crosses were won at a place called Imphal. Imphal's in the east of India, and black cardamom comes from Imphal. So we bring that black cardamom from Imphal and distill it into those gins as a nod and respect to the 5 Victoria Cross winners from the Battle of Imphal. Interestingly, there was pardon?
You are so knowledgeable. You have had such an interesting life. I'm so excited to drink at the same time, talk next week.
Things have got to have a reason, haven't they? And if you're gonna, we can all just make something that's got no reason. But I really think that if you let stories write recipes, then you really get something unique. I mean, we obviously have a base algorithm that we work to. So an example being our signature gin. There are 16 botanicals in our signature gin. Those 16 botanicals are also in the northeast, south, and west, more or less. But then we add further botanicals. So an example, we talk about Sir Alfred left the distillery and he went to the Hall of Hooting, which is on the road between Pickering and Whitby. It's a big scar in the landscape that was left by the Ice Age. Now, in the Hall of Hooting, there's a little plant that grows there, and it's the furthest. It grows out inside the Arctic Circle, but this is the only place outside the Arctic Circle where it grows. And around this plant is generally heather and bilberries. So when we look at our North Yorkshire gin, we've added heather flowers, bilberries, and a bit of lemon thyme. So everything's based on fact and something that's real. So it makes a real unique gin. We then go to East Riding of Yorkshire, the second bottle in the tub. Now that represents the East Riding Regiment. So we have, because it's the east of Yorkshire, then we've got the coast. So we have kelp to represent the coast. We then have hawthorn berries, because David Hockney famously painted hawthorn in bloom up on the walls. And then we have lavender, which comes from the garden in the distillery. So it's a journey. But we've also got in there, obviously, the black cardamom as a nod back to the regiment. But we also have baobab fruit. And baobab fruit comes from West Africa. And people generally say to me, well, what's that got to do with East Riding? So I tell them a story, 2 stories, really. One story about William Wilberforce, who's largely responsible for the abolition of slavery. And Gambia, which is a British colony inside the French colony of Senegal, only exists as a direct result of Wilberforce and the abolition of slavery. My father came from Gambia. He arrived in Hull in 1956, the same journey that the baobab fruit takes. So that's why we have baobab. And there's just got to be a reason for everything. And if there is, then you become passionate, because everything's true, everything's got.
Yeah, and the kind of excitement and the authenticity and the I can't wait to try it. I'm really tempted. I think yourself or Mark sent me 2 signatures, so I might have one. I think the one's downstairs, and I have that tonight, because what your passion conveys and all the storytelling, which is amazing. But if, like someone just said, if the products are half as good as the stories, then they're going to be amazing. But also to know that you put this energy and sense of passion and wanting to understand, you said about the coach house, the bar, the restaurant that you did the other gin for, and wanting to understand their story and put your energy into making something for them is really, really impressive. And is not, I speak to a lot of people, right? But to hear it from you is really exciting, and I know that members of Barney's kit are going to really enjoy next week.
Yeah, it's not the norm, but I'm not normal. I don't think it's not the norm, but I don't know. I'm getting on now, and if I'm going to do something now, then I've got to do the best that I can do. Yeah. You know, there are no second chances. I make gin, I love my cats, and I ride my motorbike. That's what I do.
I love it. So right, let's just go. So oh look, they've all gone. They're in here. So these are the tasting kit that's on Sip and Share at the moment, ready for next week. So just talk to me. Okay, so we will have garnishes. What are your thoughts on garnishes and tonics? Just tell us about that, because people are going to ask me what garnishes should I get and what.
We always go with a plain tonic, and I'm tonic agnostic, so I ain't going to say Fever Tree, blah 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 blah. I'm tonic agnostic, but we always like to go with a plain tonic. Okay. Generally on distillery tours in the distillery, I use Schweppes, and I use Schweppes because that's part of the gin and tonic story. You know, Schweppes invented Indian tonic water as a direct result of the military in 1826. So the Schweppes invented it. So that's why I use it in the distillery, and that's why they've got the Royal Warrant. Truthfully, what do I use at home? I use Aldi's Own.
Yeah.
Aldi's Own plain tonic, and there are two reasons for that. One, I'm a Yorkshireman, but I'm a mixed race Yorkshireman, so my mum's Scottish, and you're obviously all aware that copper wire was invented by a Scotsman and a Yorkshireman fighting over a penny. So I'm extremely tight, and it's 64 pence. So I use Schweppes tonic, and it's a very neutral tonic. There's an issue with it in that it does lose its carbon. So once you've opened the bottle, you've got to use it. But apart from that, that's what I use. Always a plain tonic, because it's pointless spending all the time making a chocolate cake and making the best flavored chocolate cake you can, and then somebody comes along and I don't know, pours raspberry jam all over it. So we just want plain tonic, and that's how that's how the gins are made. They're made for a plain tonic. And if you taste them when they're neat, you'll find they're over flavored, because they're made to go with 3-to-1 with the tonic. So a 50 cl bottle, the bottles that you have, go perfect with a 150 cl can.
All right, I can do that. I've got all of those capabilities at my disposal tonight.
And then what we do, so North Yorkshire, we add a sprig of thyme and a slice of red grapefruit.
Okay, so thyme, grapefruit, yeah.
East Yorkshire, again, grapefruit or orange. So if we've got blood pressure like me, then you can go with that slice of orange. I use grapefruit. But with East Yorkshire, we go with a sage leaf. Love the sage leaf. South Yorkshire, we can do two things with it. We can either add a sprig of rosemary and a mint leaf, and it makes a lovely, lovely gin. The alternative is add a slice of cucumber. So ignore so we have, generally the pubs that stock it, because they all don't want to carry too much stock, they use this as an alternative to another well-known brand by adding a slice of cucumber.
Yeah. Okay. Cucumber. Right.
Now, West Yorkshire is really interesting because
it is interesting. Yes, reading the back
Bradford in a bottle.
Bradford in a bottle.
It's a curry in a glass. So it's cardamom, cumin, coriander, turmeric, all those Indian spices. Again, it's a nod back to the West Yorkshire Regiment, but it's also a nod back to the multicultural of Bradford. We all developed that one to drink slightly differently, because if people come to you and say, I don't like gin and tonic, there are two potential reasons for that. They either don't like some of the 7 flavour compounds that you have in juniper, or they don't like quinine in the tonic. So with this one, it hides the juniper really, really quickly. So the turmeric and the earthy spicy flavours hide the turmeric. We always drop in a star anise, because it needs a star anise to finish the flavours off. If you're ever making a curry, always drop a star anise in at the end. It just marries all the other flavors and brings them together and slightly sweetens it. So it takes away some of the earthiness that we find in cumin and turmeric. So we add star anise and then we drink it with ginger ale.
Oh, okay. I like ginger ale. I'm getting into ginger ale actually.
And it's delicious. So it's West Yorkshire gin, star anise, plenty of ice, ginger ale.
Right. So
lovely.
Everybody to get their plain tonic in, a ginger ale in, and some herbs, some spices, a star anise, some cucumber, rosemary, mint, thyme. That, you know what? They love it, Dom. They love a big list of all of the bits and bobs and filling their glass with. Okay, right. I know, and I could talk to you forever, and I think that's going to happen next Friday. But for now, I got to go and do some parenting in a minute, Dom. I've got to get children to bed, and I just want to drink. But these kits, so the kits are on Sip and Share. The tasting is Friday the 18th at 7 p.m. The description is on the back, and I'm going to check that my gorgeous Donna, can you put a note out about the mixers? I know she's watching, so she's hearing me. The mixers and the garnish, please, Donna, near at the time. And we'll see you. Oh my God, I want to learn about all the other ones as well, so I might quiz you about that before then. But we'll see you next Friday. Are you gonna be somewhere where you can have a little drinky, or are you?
I will be in the distillery, and am I going to have any company? I might have a couple of cats with me. And I will be drinking the gins with you.
Excellent. Well, we'll send you the links and all that malarkey nearer the time. But I'm really excited. Don't say that quite so plainly often enough, but I'm really looking forward to this. And I look forward to people that aren't here today who are coming next week to hearing all the stories and no doubt asking you loads of questions as well. So
I look forward to it.
Yeah, we will do. Thanks so much, Dom. All right, then we will say bye, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.